Alright, so the NFL roster cutdown deadline has officially passed, and the Eagles made some surprising moves, as not only did a few notable players not make the final cut, including a promising rookie, a young receiver, and a productive pass rusher, but a few unexpected players did make the team as well. So in this video, I'll break that down. Plus, the Darius Cooper story just keeps getting better, while the Eagles still have a few questions to answer after final cuts. So I'm going to talk about all that and everything else from a crazy day for the Birds starting right now. Alright, so we are one day closer to the start of the NFL regular season, as the Eagles vs. Cowboys season opener is just a little over a week away at this point, which is just crazy. However, it was another NFC East team that has stolen headlines recently, that being the Washington Commanders, as after a messy, drama-filled offseason saga that included a holdout from OTAs, minicamp and training camp, and of course a trade request to top it all off, star wide receiver Terry McLaurin and the Commanders finally came to a resolution, as McLaurin signed a 3-year, $96 million contract extension to remain in Washington for the foreseeable future. And look, I don't really think this is a huge surprise, because the Commanders pretty much made it clear that they were not going to trade him, and I'm sure the whole trade request by McLaurin in the first place was just in effort to ultimately get what he wanted, which was a new contract extension. So he finally got it, and he's going to be back with the Commanders for the start of this new season, which obviously, that's good for them, and not so great for the Eagles. Still though, you do gotta wonder just how much him missing practices all offseason affects things for him and Washington offense to begin the season. I mean, I'd probably imagine not too much, but, we'll see. Moving on though, we got to talk about a couple more Eagles who just recently made it onto the NFL Top 100 list, with the first of those being right tackle Lane Johnson. Now, he actually was announced probably about a week or so ago, but I just haven't got the chance to talk about it yet. So he came in at number 23 overall, and honestly, I feel like that's a little bit low on the list because, albeit in my biased opinion, I think Lane's the best offensive lineman in the NFL. So don't get me wrong, I'm very happy he's on the list. I'm very happy he's this high up on the list. But personally, I'd have him probably a little bit higher, especially coming off a Super Bowl. And I honestly feel the same exact way about quarterback Jalen Hurts, as he also recently made it onto the list, specifically coming in at number 19 overall. And again, like Lane, I'm very happy that Hurts is on the list. He obviously deserves to be there, and I like that he's near the top of the list, in the top 20 specifically, but I honestly feel like he deserves to be just a little bit higher, because coming off the 2023 season, which of course was when the Eagles had a collapse of epic proportions, Hurts came in at number 15 on the list. So you're telling me that he won the Super Bowl, won Super Bowl MVP, and he dropped 4 spots on the top 100? Like, I don't know. That just doesn't quite make full sense to me. So again, I think he deserves to be just a little bit higher up, but still definitely happy he made it at number 19. And honestly, don't get me wrong, the top 100 is cool, and I love seeing our guys make the list, but I just can't wait to see Jalen Hurts, Lane Johnson, and the rest of these guys actually get out on the football field for week 1 and play some real, actual tackle football. It's been a long time, and that is right around the corner. First, though, obviously, before the Birds can get to that, they had to make their post-training camp cuts and finalize their initial 53-man roster. And that process of trimming the group down to 53 began on Sunday and really got going on Monday in their first wave of cuts. As like I talked about yesterday, guys like Dorian Thompson-Robinson, Lewis Seen, Kenyon Green, E.J. Jenkins, Nick Muse, Keelan Robinson, Montrell Johnson Jr., Kyle McCord, Eli Ricks, Shandarick Powell, Maxon Hook, Terrace Marshall Jr., Elijah Cooks, Andre Sam, A.J. Woods, and O'Shawn Mathis all got released. And of that group, I think there are a few notable names. I mean, for starters, it's honestly crazy that the guy who the Eagles traded C.J. Gardner-Johnson for in Kenyon Green just got flat out waived. Obviously, the Eagles made that trade for reasons unrelated to Green that I won't get into here, but still, that's just insane to me. But Green really gave them no choice, because in a crowded offensive line room, Green really did nothing to stand out during camp, and he also dealt with various injuries. So, I think he's a candidate for the practice squad, but definitely not surprised that he got cut. Then it's also notable that quarterback Kyle McCord is gone, which, again, after the Birds traded for Sam Howell, that's not really a surprise by any means, but still very noteworthy to see the rookie get waived, especially when it was looking like he was going to be the QB3 before Howell got here. And he's another guy who I would look for to come back on the practice squad. But then I think easily the most notable of the first wave of cuts was cornerback Eli Ricks, as this is a guy who had made the roster the past 2 seasons after being an undrafted free agent in 2023. He's appeared in many games for the Birds over these past couple seasons, especially in his rookie year, and he showed flashes of being able to be a good player. And even this year, in training camp and the preseason, Ricks performed very well in my opinion, so to see him get cut is definitely very tough and unfortunate, and I'm really hoping he can come back on the practice squad because I do think he's a valuable player with solid ability, so I'm not ready to see him go just yet. Moving on though, things picked up on Tuesday right where they left off on Monday with another huge wave of cuts in the hours leading up to the 4 p.m. deadline, with guys like Lance Dixon, Ife Adai, Brandon Johnson, Holland Pierce, Tariq Castro-Fields, and Taylor Morin all being waived. But I'd say probably the most notable cut from early on Tuesday was wide receiver Ainias Smith, as of course, he's a guy who the Eagles drafted as recently as last year in the 5th round, and he had a very shaky start to his NFL career, specifically really having a rough start to training camp in his rookie season before slowly turning things around, and I think since then he has shown a lot of improvement. I mean, training camp this year I think was a big step in the right direction for him, and even in the preseason, he had some very nice moments, including catching 2 touchdowns, one in each game against the Bengals and the Browns, and he also had a very nice punt return against the Browns as well. That said though, Ainias also did have a couple not so great moments, and he still clearly has a bit of developing to do, and meanwhile, the Birds wide receiver room is already pretty crowded, and I think the trade for John Mechie and the emergence of Darius Cooper just left no room for Ainias Smith, even with Johnny Wilson getting injured. So, on one hand, it's definitely unfortunate to see him get cut, but it also makes sense. And like with Eli Ricks, I'm just hoping we're able to get Ainias Smith back on the practice squad. But after that wave of cuts, the 4 p.m. deadline rolled around, and the Eagles' initial 53-man roster was officially announced, and the Birds' social media team was quick to release a video revealing who exactly had made the team. So I'll play that for you guys right now. Hopefully the music doesn't get copyrighted. If it does, I'll try and replace it with something else. But anyways, here's the video. Yeah, so again, that was definitely a cool video, but it was also pretty quick, so I'll break it down a bit more and give you the important details and surprises of the group. And we'll start out with what was easily the best and most inspiring story of the summer, that being wide receiver Darius Cooper. As like you saw there, he did officially make the team after going undrafted back in April, and then signing with the Birds after 5 years at Tarleton State, all places. And obviously, going into camp, all the odds were stacked against Cooper, and it seemed like there was almost no chance that he was going to make this roster. I mean, I'm sure most people thought he was just going to be a camp body and nothing more. I certainly was one of those people, but Cooper obviously had other plans as he got better and better as the days went on. He made more and more plays, and every time he got an opportunity, he took advantage of it. Whether it was the Birds' first preseason game where Cooper put up 6 catches for 82 yards and a touchdown, or towards the end of training camp when Cooper started to see a lot of first-team reps. And obviously, all that culminated in Cooper making the team. So huge shout out and congratulations to him. And after the deadline, both Nick Sirianni and Howie Roseman actually talked about Cooper specifically and what allowed him to make this team and potentially be a valuable piece for them.
One thing I think about him is he has this ability. Not everybody has an ability to win one-on-one. And I think he's shown that through camp, that he has tools in his body to be able to win one. He's big. He's strong. He's quick. My take on receivers always, is the best guys are have good body quickness and good play strength, and he has those things. Now, and the other thing I think he's tough. This guy is a really strong football player who can do some of the dirty work stuff for us, as far as our blocking, as far as special teams, as far as He's got good speed to be able to clear things out. And really, when you have a guy like that, there's opportunities for him as well in the pass game that mesh off of some of those things.
You see that he's got talent, and when he came in here, just seeing how big and strong he is. I mean, we sat with him today, and he's sitting there in shorts and a t-shirt, and you're looking at him, and you're going, this guy has so much developmental qualities for us, and what a great kid. So obviously it starts now. Like we tell all these guys, there's no scholarships in the NFL. They got to keep earning it. But he's done everything up to this point to earn the opportunity.
Again, I'm just so happy for Darius Cooper, and I'm excited to see what kind of impact he's able to make in whatever role he gets this year. Moving on though, a couple more notable inclusions to the roster come at the defensive tackle position, those being Gabe Hall and Byron Young. And Hall making it is very noteworthy and also a great story, considering that he went undrafted in 2024 and then spent all of last season on the practice squad just developing and learning the game at the NFL level. And then this summer, he seemed to take a leap forward, and hence he earned himself a roster spot. So congrats to him. And then you have Byron Young, who got here extremely late in the offseason last year, dealt with injuries, and while he was on the team, I don't believe he ever got on the field for the Birds last season, but the Eagles still seem to be high on him, and even though I didn't fully expect it, he obviously ended up making this team. And Howie Roseman actually talked about what they do like about each of these guys after final cuts took place.
Well, two very different guys, Gabe Hall and Byron Young, and Gabe Hall's another credit to our developmental program. This is a guy that we followed, who, if he probably would have came out after his junior year, would have been a second-day pick. We got him as a free agent last year, and our guys went to work on him because he's got tools in his body. This is a big, long, athletic defensive tackle, and really spent last year on the practice squad developing those qualities. Byron was an SEC player at Alabama, who we knew really well coming out of the draft, third-round pick of the Raiders. We claimed him last year. He's heavy-handed. Really strong ability to really block destruct, and I think for that's always a skill set that we're looking for in defensive linemen.
Moving on though, another notable detail about the initial 53-man roster is that veteran edge rusher Ogbo Okoronkwo actually ended up making it over both Patrick Johnson and the rookie Antwaun Powell Ryland, which personally, in my prediction yesterday, I had both of those guys making it over O, and at the very least, I thought Patrick Johnson was going to make it. So that was definitely a bit of a surprise to me, but Howie Roseman did his best to explain the decision afterwards.
We're big fans of Pat Johnson, and again, with 1 through 70, we got to work through our roster here, and he's a tremendous camp. He can rush the passer, he can set the edge, he plays on special teams. He's an Eagles draft pick, so really like Pat. Obviously, he's out there. We got to see what happens here in the next 24 hours, but he's a guy we love having on this football team. And then, he's got get off. He's explosive. You see that. He can rush. He can win one-on-one matchups on the edge. We saw him really, we had followed him through college, and then, as he started his career, LA and Houston, and then, I remember Coach and I, when we practiced against Cleveland a couple of years ago, just going, man, that guy's hard to block. And I think that as he gets more familiar with our defense and is able to play fast, he's got the tools to certainly help us in a rotation.
Yeah, so from that, it certainly does sound like the Eagles are very confident that Okoronkwo can make an impact as a rotational edge defender this season. But with that being said, they still really like Patrick Johnson and want to get him back on the practice squad. So we'll see if that materializes. I'm sure they'd also like to get APR back as well, so hopefully they're able to do that. But again, we'll just have to wait and see what happens there. Moving on though, other notable details from the final roster include the fact that the Birds actually kept 11 offensive linemen and 12 if you include Miles Hinton, who was put on IR. Those being all the guys that I have here on my prediction from yesterday. In the starters, Fred Johnson, Matt Pryor, Drew Kendall, and Cameron Williams. And then they also kept Trevor Keegan and Brett Toth on top of that. So, definitely notable that they kept that much depth there on the offensive line, but also understandable. And then also, surprisingly enough, the Birds actually cut long snapper Charlie Hewlett, leaving them currently without one on the active roster. So, that's definitely interesting. That said, I would expect Hewlett to sign onto the practice squad and probably play week 1 against Dallas. So, we'll see what happens there and how the Eagles figure out that situation throughout the season. And then also, the Eagles don't have a definitive returner after final cuts either, as Avery Williams was let go after a lackluster summer. Now, the Birds have some options there in both Cooper DeJean and Jahan Dotson, among others, so, we'll see how that shakes out by the time we get to week 1. And again, we'll just have to see how they handle that situation throughout the season. But that said, I'm curious to know your guys' thoughts on the initial 53-man roster, and also, who would you like to see the Eagles bring back on the practice squad over these next few days? Just give me all your thoughts down in the comments below, and also, while you're at it, make sure you guys subscribe and you turn on notifications. That way, you don't miss any Eagles coverage, whether it's over these next few days, covering the practice squad signings and other news, or just anything coming throughout the season. So again, you're not going to want to miss it, so subscribe and turn on notifications, and also drop a like down below to show some support, because it really does help me out a ton. Let's see if we can get to at least 500 likes today. And also, if you do want to watch another Eagles video going over some news from yesterday, you can check this out right here. And now with all that being said, that's pretty much all I got for this one, guys. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.